now, and then we'll break if people want to for 10 minutes. So do you want to come on up for item 16, I think it is? Great. Well, do you want to just talk us through it briefly, and then if there's questions?
Sure.
And I see you've sent through a note this morning to some of Yanni's as well.
Yeah, it answers Yanni's questions we just got this morning, so I've just answered them.
Yep, perfect.
And firstly, apologies from our board chair and CE. They're in associate director interviews all day yesterday and today, which is another one on our statement of intent requirements. So the statement of intent, final statement of intent, not too much different from the draft you would have received earlier in the year, other than picking up on a couple of the points that we received in the 15th of June letter. And, you know, obviously the big thing is the COVID impact, which, as we've indicated in the statement of intent, and here our forecasts are the group forecast, but as we all saw late last night, this is a moving feast, and while the companies are doing really well at the moment, there's going to be a specific impact on the airport and the port especially, depending on what happens. So.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Leah? Tim?
Yeah, just a couple, and I guess following on from the CIL process with regards to terrace, the information flow here, you know, it states the board aims to keep the council informed of all major development. I guess my concern is what is the no surprises, and I know it was thrown at us because of the possibility of being made public prior to any planned media process. But my understanding was also that the planned process for CIL and CCHL to inform the council was going to be 2 weeks following the annual plan. So I'm just wondering, I'm dissatisfied, I guess, with in the statement of intent, the actual no surprises. There's nothing here about no surprises. All it's got is information flows, under information flows. So if you've got a comment on that, it may be unfair to ask you, and I do apologise, but I guess I'm just stating to my colleagues around the table, I have a real problem with this, and I just wonder how to go forward on this, because we need to go forward with you.
Yep.
Because I see that my fellow colleagues who are elected members on this.
Maybe what we could do, Tim, is on that 1.6, where the staff are going to be doing the letter of expectation for next year soon. We could maybe flag that, Carol, can we? Just as something that, unless you want to address it, but I think you've made your point.
I guess my point is, I think it's maybe less, and I do apologise again, but I think it's probably an issue for the council, because I would like a workshop because I see I want to get a relationship with our elected members on these boards, on this particular board, how it operates, because it just seems that they're on the board and there's no feedback. And there's no direction. They're meant to be there to give a flavour.
Yeah, so are there questions for Leah, or are they?
Well, it was originally, but I guess it's unfair, and I do think it's unfair to ask you, but it's probably more a question for the chairman of the board.
Carol can pick up.
There's no relationship here.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things there. So yes, have to address it separately, and I will take that feedback back, and it's something, a conversation that should be had. Just want to clarify one comment that you had at the last bit about your councillors on the CCHL board.
Yep.
They are directors of CCHL.
Yes.
Right. So anything that comes from CCHL as a board has to come as a group. The councillors can't come back and give information, because that's not in line with the Companies Act, so just be very clear on that. The no surprises has always been there, and it is always run really well. The balance is always about commercial sensitivity. Thank you. I was thinking I have got it here. Linda's just found it, so the section is in there. So we do regular updates, and when we can release information, we will. My understanding in regards to the environment that you're talking about, it was set there for briefing. Unfortunately, it hit the media just before, and finding that time. But we have to tell you, and from an NZX point of view, things that happen to CCHL, we're also bound by anything that we give. We've got to be careful. We can only give the market and councillors the same thing at the same time. So there is restrictions around that. But I think that was more a unfortunate situation of timing, to be fair. But we will address it in a workshop. That's
good point, Tim.
A question perhaps for the chairman of the board and the CE.
Yep, and I'll pass that back to
and another one would be, would we be better to have, rather than board members, because they are tied to the rules, being board members, of having observers? Just a question to put out there.
We'll take that off. Yeah. It's probably not something to do right now. But any other questions?
Yeah, I had one, Sam.
Oh, yep, Yanni.
Cool. Sorry about before. I just got disconnected. So I just, in terms of our letter of expectation, I still don't see where CCHL is addressing looking at prosperity in the lower socioeconomic areas of the city. So I was quite puzzled. I couldn't find anything that actually addressed that in the SOI.
Yeah, so it's addressed in the sense of that we'll work with council and making sure our shareholder alignment is that's where the KPI is. As I said in my email to you earlier, Yanni, I don't know if you've had a chance to get it because I've only just sent it. You know, CCHL's role is managing the commercial entities and enhancing returns to council. But in addition to that, one of the big things, piece of work that Christchurch NZ, Christchurch City Holdings and Council have been working really extensively in the last 3 months is this inclusive framework, growth framework. Now, this is, in my understanding, is one of the key things that is the three joint agencies working really closely, and that, in answer to your question, that is how we believe that this will be worked through to actually get what you're actually asking for.
So all the things that like Auckland does in terms of like the Southern Initiative, like training, enterprise, apprenticeships by using the strength of the council companies, is that being looked at by CCHL with Christchurch NZ?
It will be part of that, but just to clarify that, a lot of our entities do extensive training and apprenticeships and stuff. Kinetics is a big one. CityCare, there's a lot of training initiatives, and each of the entities do a lot of that as well. So, but I think it all needs to come out together as part of that inclusive framework, Yanni.
Yeah, I think it's really important. There's growing evidence that young people in particular, and probably Māori and Pacifica, are going to be hit hardest in terms of the COVID-19, you know, in terms of jobs and employment. And certainly there's parts of the city where that will be much more prevalent. So I think it would be good to have a lot greater visibility about what intentional activities are being done by CCHL to address that. Can I just ask, in terms of the senior executive remuneration, are we able to get an update around what restraint has happened, and also in terms of the reductions that have been either agreed or not agreed?
So every year in the annual reports of all the individual CCTOs, they release as part of their things the CE remuneration packages. That was introduced a couple of years ago. Obviously that's not public yet because they haven't been released. But as I said in my email, you know, these are independent companies. The boards of those independent companies are responsible for the remuneration of their senior executive. And their role is to actually perform for the council and produce returns.
Right.
We have continued, as in our statement of intent, as is in every statement of intent of every subsidiary, about the recognising that they are publicly owned entities, and there is a restraint on those bases.
It just seems that despite the fact that we keep putting the same wording in every year, the salaries are just getting like quite massive, and it just, I don't know. I just wonder, is there anything else we should be doing to try and get on top of the very high salaries for senior executives of our companies, given how much they seem to be going up by? Like, how do we actually get it to a more reasonable level?
You don't have a view? If you don't have a view, that's fine. But.
Well, the view is exactly what we've always said.
Yeah.
They are independent companies. We don't determine. We're a shareholder, not the governance boards. The board of the independent companies are the ones that set the remuneration, and we've continued to give the same message, and there has been restraint. So, yeah.
Cool. Anything else, Yanni?
Right, so in regards to the living wage, we're going to have a workshop in October, and that's only going to be for direct employees, in terms of the cleaners at the airport and the contract.
Yanni, let's just leave that for the workshop. I think it's pretty clear that we are going to kind of work together on it. I think it's far more productive to actually have a decent conversation about it rather than in this setting. So is there anything else you have? Yeah,
no, that's good, man. So no, but just I guess a question of my colleagues. around whether we're happy with the senior executive remuneration and whether we need to put more into the statement of intent.
Well, I don't think we'll do that in the SOI, but we can just reinforce it in the letter of expectation. But again, we can, CCHL are coming in, so we can talk through it. But your point's valid, and well, I shouldn't say valid, your point's well made. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, your point's not valid, but it's well made. So, yeah. Okay.
Right.
Any other questions? No. Okay. Would someone like to move this? Phil would like to move it, and Pauline's happy to second it. Any discussion? No? All in favour say aye. Against? That's carried.
I'm
Great.
going to abstain.
You what?
I will abstain.
You'll abstain. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and I'm against it.
You're against it, Yanni? Okay, great. Thank you very much, Leah, for coming in for that. We'll see you at the workshop. Now, we might